class. This morning we are on lesson 109 of book 4 in your Saxon books, and the title of this lesson is Equivalent Fractions. So today we're going to be talking about some fractions that equal the exact same thing. You can see that with my fractions here today. This top red bar is 1/2. And if you notice, this is 1/4. But if I take two of them and line them up under my 1/2, I have the same amount of space. So 2/4 is equal to 1/2. Here I have 1/6, and if I take three of them, 1, 2, 3, 6, also takes up the same amount of space as 1/2. Moving on to my eighths, this is 1/8 all by itself. I had to line up 4 of those to equal 1/2, and here I have 1/12, and I had to line up 6 of them to equal 1/2. Before we move on to the lesson, I want to talk about this just a little bit. Look at the denominator here, 1/4 and 1/4. Nyla, what is half of 4?
Half of 4 is 2.
And look how many fourths I needed to equal 1/2. I needed 2 of them. Nyla, what is half of 6?
3.
And I needed 3/6 in order to equal 1/2. What is half of 8?
4.
And I needed 4/8 to equal 1/2. And finally, what's half of 12?
6.
And I needed 6/12 to equal 1/2. So an easy way to find how many of a fraction you'll need to equal 1/2 is by looking at the denominator. So let's do another example with that. What if I wanted to know how many tenths equal 1/2? Well, what is half of 10?
Half of 10 is 5.
So 5/10 would be half of the whole. It would equal 1/2. Okay? Moving on to our first example here. Let's get an eraser. Take a look at the fractions that I drew on the board. On this side, we can see that we have 2/3 colored in. So this represents 2/3. This is supposed to be the exact same size rectangle on this side, but I've split it into 6 instead of thirds. So the question is, how many 6 do I need to color in order to represent the same amount as these 2/3? What do you think, Nyla?
So this can be 2/3 because it was 2/3 and then you just split it through.
It was 2/3 and then I just split it through the middle.
Well, 3/3, but
Right, you're right, 3/3. So if I just color that in, this green section represents my first third over here. And then if I color this in, this green section represents my second third. So how many 6 did I need to color in order to equal 2/3?
in order to equal 2/3, you needed to color in exactly 4/6.
I needed to color in 4/6. So down here we can say that 2/3 is equal to 4/6. Okay? All right. Our next example is another picture. This time my rectangle is going to go like this. And it is split into 4 equal pieces. I know mine aren't exactly equal. When we're drawing, we have to account for human error. Yep. And then I'm going to have this one that should be the same, and it is going to be split into 8 equal pieces by going down the middle there. In our first, actually no, both of these are colored in. So we should have this one colored in, and then we should have this one colored in. And the question says, what equivalent fractions are shown by this picture? So here I have 4 equal pieces, which means my 4 goes in the denominator. And of those 4 pieces, we've colored in 1. So this fraction shows me 1/4. This fraction, I have 8 equal pieces, so 8 goes in the denominator, and 2 of them are colored in. 2 goes in the numerator. Now the question is, are they equivalent? Do I have the same amount colored in?
Yes.
Yes, I do. So 1/4 is equal to 2/8. Okay, so we have to go back a little ways for this next example. Do you remember that every time we multiply something times 1, it doesn't change the number? We end up with the same amount, right? So Nyla, what's 4 times 1?
4.
What's 25 times 1?
25.
What's 213 times 1?
213.
Okay, so that works with fractions too. 1/4 times 1 is still going to equal
1/4.
And 2/3 times 1 is still going to equal
2/3.
Okay, so we're going to use that fact that we know to manipulate fractions and manipulate numbers so that we can make them do what we want. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, so let's say I have 1/2. And I want to multiply it times 1. Well, I'm going to make a giant 1 here.
Oh, I was going to say, what's
Okay,
that
and
one?
inside of this 1, I'm going to be sneaky. Instead of 1, I'm going to write 2 halves. Is 2 halves equal to 1? Here I have 1, and my board's not magnetic, so I'm going to have to hold them up here.
You could,
Here I have,
you could use
I could use that.
pen.
That's not quite long enough for the 1. Okay, so
Sure,
here's
put
my
them
1,
across
here's my
here.
2 halves. Do you see how they're the same? 2 halves is equal to 1. If you remember, with fractions, anytime the numerator and the denominator are the same, it's equal to 1. 3/3, 4/4, 5/5. Okay, so we can use that to change this. Okay, this time we're just going to do 2 halves. 1/2 times 2 halves. And what we do when we multiply fractions is we just go straight across the top and then straight across the bottom. So 1 times 2 is
2.
2 times 2 is
4.
So we're saying that 1/2 is equal to 2/4. Is that true? I have my 1/2 back. Here I have 1/2 is equal to 2/4. Okay? We can do that again. Instead of 2 halves, we can fill in 3/3. Is 3/3 equal to 1? Yes, it is. So now if I multiply, 1 times 3 gives me 3. 2 times 3 gives me 6. And is 1/2 equal to 1, 2, 3, 6? Yes, it is. Okay, so the examples to go with that. We want to find 4 fractions equal to 1/3 by multiplying 1/3 times 2 halves, 3/3, 4/4, and 5/5. So the answer wants us to come up with 4 fractions equal to 1/3. Okay, we're going to do that right here in brown. So we have to take 1/3 and start by multiplying times 2 halves. Remember, we just go straight across the top and then straight across the bottom. 1 times 2 is
2.
2. 3 times 2 is
6.
6. There's one of our answers. 2/6 is equal to 1/3. So here, let's take these off. Here I have 1/3.
Would you want these 6?
Nope, I have 6 over here. Thank you for helping though. Okay, here I have 1/3. Let's prove it. 1/6, 2/6. Are they the same? Yes, in fact they are. Okay, now we're going to do another one. Now we're going to do 1/3 times, we did that one already, 3/3. Okay, Nyla, what's 1 times 3?
1 times 3, 3.
And 3 times 3?
9.
Okay, I don't have ninths with my little magnet pieces here, so we could draw a picture to prove that that's true.
And that would be easier because it stays on the
If
board.
I color in 1/3 there, and then here, I divide it into ninths, and I color in 3/9. Yes, they're the same, they're equal. Okay, so this is my second answer. We've done 3/3. Now we're gonna do 1/3 times 4/4. Nyla, what's 1 times 4? Go across the top.
1 times 4, 4.
And then 3 times 4?
12.
So 4/12 is equal to 1/3. Can you hand me 4 of those and we'll prove it?
Okay, 4/12.
Okay, so we have 1/12, 2/12, 3/12, and 4/12. Are they the same? Yes, they are. So this is answer number 3. Remember, they were asking us for 4 fractions, so our last one is going to be 1/3 times 5/5. And across the top, Nyla, 1 times 5.
5.
Across the bottom, 3 times 5.
15.
So 5/15. Again, I don't have 15ths as part of my manipulative set, but we can draw, I'm going to draw a big picture because I have to divide it into 15 pieces. That's going to be a little more difficult. Let's try that. So,
split it in 5 and
thirds.
Yeah.
There's my 1/3. And we'll make another kind of big triangle. And I have to split it into 15. So let's do that. Make 5 that way. And 3 that way. And that is not. You know what? So that I could show it to you, I'm going to color it a different way. Because I could color in 5 of these and tell you that they're equal.
I think I might be equal.
But I want you to be able to see that they're equal. So instead of splitting my thirds like this, I'm going to split my thirds like this. And if I color in 1/3 here, and then if I color in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these, do you see that 1/3 is equal to 5/15? Nyla, are they correct?
Yes.
You got it. Okay. All right, so those are the different types of problems that you'll have with this lesson practice. We'll be drawing pictures and we'll be multiplying times any fraction equaling 1. Okay, so the first lesson practice question here is a picture. 2 pictures actually. We have 2 squares. This is A. Okay, pretend these are equal squares. This one is divided into 4 pieces and 3 of them are colored. This one is divided into 8 pieces. And 6 of them are colored. And they want us to say What are two equivalent fractions that are represented by this picture?
Should I take these off?
If you want to try it by yourself and pause, when you come back, we'll go over the answer. First of all, Nyla, are these equal?
Yes.
The same amount is colored, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the first thing we got to say. Are they in fact equal? Yes, they are. Nyla, what fraction does this represent?
This, so on this half I see 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and there's 2 of those, so the denominator would be 8.
The denominator would be 8.
And then the numerator would be 6.
And we have 6 pieces colored in. Okay, Nyla, what fraction would this be?
Right here, we have 4 as a denominator and 3 as a numerator.
So 4 equal pieces make up the whole, and 3 of them are colored in, and we already said that they were equal, so 6/8 is equal to 3/4. For problem B, another picture. This time we have 9. The rectangle split into 9 with these 3 colored in. And here the rectangle is split into thirds with this one colored in. And it's the same directions. What two equivalent fractions does this picture represent? If you want to pause, when you hit play, we'll go over the answer. So, Nyla, can you tell me?
You said that this was split into 9, so our denominator would be 9. And then you colored in exactly 3 pieces, 3 9s.
Okay.
Over here you split it exactly into 3, denominator 3. And then your numerator would be 1 because you colored in exactly 1 piece.
Okay. And are they equal?
Yes.
They are, so we'll put our equal sign in the middle. All right, for the next problem, actually I can leave those up there for a minute. Here we give you a fraction. You have 4/6 is equal to 2/3, and the directions say draw a picture to represent these equivalent fractions. If you'd like to pause, when you come back, we'll go over the answer together. Nyla, I'd like you to draw a picture here. In fact, I'll give you a different color. There you go. Come on over.
Does it have to be like with points, or can it be a circle?
It can be a circle.
Okay.
It does not specify that it has to be a rectangle. Okay, she has her 4/6 drawn. Now she's working on her 2/3.
That is so weird. Look,
That's okay.
it's human hair, so. Potato.
Okay. Now we have 2 circles showing that 4/6 is the same as 2/3. Okay? Our next question is where we're going to use the multiplication. And I'm going to give you 2 of these because this tends to be the harder skill for this lesson. Okay, so this set of directions says multiply each fraction by the following 2, 3, 4, and 5. By 2 halves, 3/3, 4/4, and 5/5. Okay, so the 2 that I would like for you to try is F, which is 1/4, and H, which is 2/5. Okay, if you would like to pause the program or pause the video right here, try these on your own. Remember, you're going to multiply 1/4 times each of these 4 fractions to get 4 answers, and the same thing with 2/5 here. And when you unpause, we'll go over the answers together. Okay, so 1/4 times 2 halves. Remember, when we multiply fractions, we go straight across the top and straight across the bottom.
So 1 times 2 is 2, and 4 times 2 is 8.
There's our first answer. So now we want to do 1/4 times 3/3.
1 times 3 is 3, and 4 times 3 is 12.
Our second answer is 3/12. Now we want to do 1/4 times 4/4.
1 times 4 is 4, and 4 times 4 is 16.
There's our third answer, and now we want 1/4 times 5/5. 1 times 5?
5.
4 times 5?
20.
Okay, so each of these make up the set of correct answers to problem F. We're going to do the same thing with H here. 2/5 times 2 halves. 2 times 2 is?
4.
Remember, we're going straight across the top here and straight across the bottom. And 5 times 2?
5 times 2 is, hold on, 10.
10. 4/10. First answer. Then 2/5 times 3/3. 2 times 3, Nyla?
Sorry. That's 6.
6. And 5 times 3?
5 times 3. Hold on. 15.
15. So 6/15 is our second answer. 2/5 times 4/4. 2 times 4 is?
4. Hold on. 8.
8.
And then
And 5 times 4?
20.
20. And finally, 2/5 times 5/5. 2 times 5 is?
10.
And 5 times 5 is?
25.
So 10/25. These answers make up the set for problem H. If you are in my class, there are 4 or 5 more lesson practice problems. Parents, if you would like to have your kids do those to get a little bit more practice, the answers to those are also in the answer key, along with the answers to the written practice that you have at home. But now is the time to start written practice, which begins on page 690 of your textbooks. I hope you have a wonderful day. We just found out today that I will not be seeing you in person again this school year. I will be making contact with each of you, and hopefully we can set up some kind of online meeting. Have a wonderful day. I will see you again soon.